Hi guys, and welcome to yet another episode of White Lotus Blooms TV. So, the last time we focused on the subtopic of relationships under White Lotus Blooms TV, we looked at the issue of unpacking patterns of pain. And I remember saying to you guys that before we can start to tap into, the love that we want, it's important to do the work, to examine what we think about love, to examine where those beliefs are coming from, and to start to figure out how they may or may not be affecting us even now in our adult years, and to start to unpack those. So today I feel like we have done enough work, hopefully, right, to start the process now of talking about today's topic, which is the vision for the love you want and deserve. Now, I'm a firm believer in the fact that whatever it is that you want, whatever it is that you get into your life, it all starts in the mind. So I've had the experience several times of visualizing, whether through a vision board, whether through writing it down in my big book of dreams, or jottings in my phone, just being intentional about something that I want, and maybe days, weeks, or months after, have it literally manifest in my space. And so I believe that similarly for this whole thing of love, that it's important for us to set our minds right about what it is that we want, about what serves us, and most importantly, I think, about what is possible. Like allowing ourselves to really dream and believe that the things that we want are possible, not just universally, but are possible for us. Possible for me, Kamala, that I can have this thing. I believe that if it's not present, is limiting, and it can fully block beautiful things and experiences from coming into our lives. And so, if you haven't yet, and whether you're single or not, I believe this is a useful exercise to start, after watching this video or through watching this video, to start to actually write down and become intentional and clear about what you want in love. I'm making the assumption that all of us want love, and I'm making the assumption that all of us are willing to believe that love is something that we can all tap into. And I'm talking about romantic love here. So if I'm wrong, correct me, send me a message. But generally, I feel like it's something that we all were built to want it, and I believe it's fully attainable. So let's start off by talking about your list. Do you have a list? Sometimes men joke about the fact that women have these long and unrealistic lists of things that they want in the dream man. I would caution against this notion of the dream man, because I feel like just talking about it from the standpoint that it's a dream guy makes us a little bit unrealistic sometimes in our expectations. It's as if this guy is supposed to be just some poster that we hold up to say we have him. But I feel like it's not the most useful way to view what we're looking for, because the fact is that no matter how dreamy the guy is, reality must chip in at some point, okay? But generally, I still feel like there's value in having a list. So I want to ask you, do you have a list? What are some of your preferences? What are some of the things that you prioritize in terms of qualities and attributes that your partner, your ideal partner, should bring, should have, that would make that person worthy of your time, worthy of your commitment, and worthy of your etc. Okay? So let's start where most people start, which is the physical. Do you have an ideal vision in your mind as to what this person ought to look like? For many women, we are socialized to really buy into this whole thing of tall, dark, and handsome, or some variation thereof. Is it that it's critical for this person to look exactly like your image in your head? Are you open to flexing a bit, etc.? That's important to know before we even start the quote-unquote, process of attracting the love that we want, because sometimes we can unintentionally block out sensible people, worthy people, because we are so inflexible in our, in what it is that we're looking for. Something that kind of helps me with balancing that out is the fact that I, as fabulous as I think I am not everybody's cup of tea. I'm not everybody's ideal look, but I am worthy nonetheless. And so that helps me when I'm engaging with people, generally engaging with men, to really remember that should not be an automatic disqualifier. And even worse, it should not be a thing that causes you to be blind to someone's value. You still may not be willing to engage beyond a platonic level, and that's perfectly your choice and perfectly fine. But just from the standpoint of being human and sensitive, I believe it's good to still see the value in people regardless of their exterior. Across the board, not judging the book by the cover is a very crucial thing, right, to live by. So that's the physical. What about the material? Because that's some place that many of us go secondly in our minds when we start thinking about the ideal person. What do you want this person to own, to have, to bring to the table, be willing to do for you, etc.? Now, can I just say that for some of us, unrealistic doesn't begin to describe what it is that we want. Because let's say that you are 24 or 25 and you're looking for a partner and you don't want to go older, you want to stay within like 24, 26. And you're expecting this person to be like a corporate giant, you're expecting them to be earning 7 figures or 6 figures, which oftentimes comes from either people who are super successful entrepreneurs on the first go. At that age, that would be the most likely scenario. And bear in mind that super successful entrepreneurship success does not come every day. It's in many ways some kind of an anomaly. So we want them to have the 6 or 7 figures, to own their own home, to have like hundreds of thousands of dollars in savings and investments in the bank. But the person should still be 26 or 27 and no more. So 27 and younger. What's the likelihood, ladies and gentlemen, let's say ladies because I'm talking to you now, what's the likelihood that this is an attainable goal? Should you pin all your hopes at finding love on the odds of finding this particular anomaly in your space? You decide. But from where I sit, sometimes it does us good to kind of revisit some of the theories, because some of them are, I think, unrealistic, and some of them can block, again, beautiful things from coming into your life. Where are you at financially? Where are you at in your career? Are you still in your mind worthy of a good man? Are you still in your mind going to be an asset to a man even though you don't have hundreds of thousands of dollars of savings in the bank? And I'm not saying that you cannot not be successful, right, or financially stable and want a man or a partner who's financially stable. I'm not saying that. But I again believe that we ought to be fair, at least fair in our expectations, and treat with whomever approaches us in a respectful way, regardless of what it is that they have or do not have. Sometimes, look at the classic case of the Obamas. There was a famous meme going around about, I don't know if it's true, but I heard that somebody was interviewing Michelle and they said to her, you know, what if it is that, where it go? Pretty much the sum total of the story is that she added so much value that she was a critical part of him becoming the president of the United States. And in so doing, the people extrapolated from that meme and said, well, if you're a good woman, then you can be with a man who's not yet there and help him in meaningful, tangible ways to actually get to that place of prominence or super success or financial stability or whatever the case might be. And I believe in that. So I'm just saying to you, check the expectations, check how reasonable they are. If you still want them, you want them. Another thing on my list is not squelching what you truly want. Because if you want it, you want it. If it's important to you, it's important to you. But again, the way you treat with prospective partners is also critical, and I think it defines who you are to some large extent. So we'll look at the physical, we looked at the material. Let's look at the rest of it, character-wise, belief system-wise. How do you want this person to be? Is it important to you, for example, that your partner shares the same spiritual or religious beliefs that you do? You need to be clear on that. Is it a non-negotiable for you? You need to be clear on that. Is it a case where you're open? Be clear on that. How open are you? Be clear on that. Is it a case where you strongly believe that opposites attract and so you want a partner who is very different from you for various reasons? Then what are those reasons? Dr. Karen Carpenter said something that I remember to this day. She said that opposites attract, but only to start with, because of the excitement of the difference and how they quote-unquote balance each other out. But ultimately, birds of a feather are what end up sticking together, because similarity is so much easier for our psyches and the practical aspects of our lives to thrive on, that, it just makes sense. It feels stable, and in terms of long-term success, it's a great predictor of long-term success in relationships, when it is that you and your partner at least have certain core value similarities. Important things to consider. What about how you want to feel? And this is also obviously connected to your prospective partner's characteristics. Do you want to be made to feel cherished? Do you want to be made to feel honored and celebrated? Is that important to you? Do you want to be shown off? Is that important to you? Do you also want to show off your partner? That now has implications for how we live our lives sometimes through social media. Because for many people, if and when you find the partner who is the one, it's almost as if it's not beautiful unless everybody sees it and taps into the fact that, oh, this is so beautiful. But again, to each his own. But suppose you and your partner have different ideas about that, then that can be difficult to handle. Okay? Now, as it relates to the similarities concept, it's also critical. I can't even say how critical it is. It's just critical for the both of you to be on the same page in terms of what it is that you both want from a relationship, how you perceive love, and eventually, if and when you make a commitment to each other, to have what Will and Jada Pinkett Smith refer to as a unified vision of love. What is it that you want to create with this person? For some people, love is simply the feeling that you feel like you never felt before, right? Now that feeling is a wonderful feeling, but how practical is it to feel that 24/7, 365? So what happens mentally in that person when it is that the feeling dies down? A good friend of mine who's married told me that she had a conversation with her spouse about the difference between feeling in love and actually still loving your partner, because there is a difference. That feeling that we define as being in love is euphoric. Your partner is wonderful and perfect. They can do no wrong. You guys will be together forever. Of this you are sure. It's just excellent. It's just beautiful. You feel romantic. You feel romanced. You feel cherished, etc. And Jamaica people talk about how you feel your heart go boom, titty, boom, titty, boom, titty, boom. How practical is that for a 15-year relationship? Your heart going wear out. Okay? You're going to have some kind of heart problem because every time you see a partner, your heart go boom, titty, boom, titty, boom. Something's going to give out in the physical space. So it's not practical to expect that feeling of in-loveness is going to be with you every day. I don't think that's practical, and it's not. And so it's critical to have these conversations with whomever it is that is in your space in a serious way. What do you consider love to be? Is love a decision? Is love an action word? Is love a noun? Is love a feeling, etc.? What about if it is that you both agree that love is an action word? What do you agree that love does? For some people, love gives. For some people, love takes. There can be gross imbalance in a relationship if it is that you guys are not on the same page about how love operates. For some people, love is soft. Love is never rough. Love is never confrontational. And I believe that if people truly love you, then they will have it in their best interest. They will have it in their heart. They will have it in their intentions to oftentimes hold you accountable, sometimes in a way that is not comfortable for you. Is that still love? I remember one person saying to me that if it is that her husband disagrees with her in person, she can't deal. She says she is not mature enough. She was honest, and I appreciate honesty. She's not mature enough to have her husband and her, for example, be in a group discussion or a meeting and have her husband say openly that I do not agree with what you just said. To each his own. And I'm not judging here. All I'm saying is we all need to be clear. All of us have some complexes and some stuff that sometimes even when we look at them, we might be like, this not really add up, But we have them. And, we're working on them slowly or quickly or none at all. But the reality is that they may play a role in how we are able to engage with a partner, and so they're important discussions to have. And I'm doing this video at this stage in, I think, many people's journey, in that they're seeking love and not in the love already, because I feel like it's such a good reminder sometimes to force ourselves to have these conversations before things get real serious. Especially because we don't want to have them, hard conversations, when things are just euphoric and airy-fairy. Life is just wonderful. It's everything. We don't want to have those conversations because you don't want to upset the status quo. You don't want to throw any spokes in anybody's wheel. You don't want to rock the boat too much. So I'm encouraging us to get used to having these big man conversations up front, and not in an aggressive way where you're drilling the person like they are, on some most wanted list, but to have conversations where you share, your partner receives, and they share back with you about what they want, what they're looking for, what are their ideals, etc. Now, financially, we touched on, compatibility, and for some people, they are not financially stable, but they're allergic to anybody else who's not financially stable as well. I raise this point because I feel like we should all be in a mode of self-improvement. Stemming from that is the fact that before we can start to really open up ourselves and comfortably receive what it is that we're saying we want, we have to see ourselves as worthy of receiving that. And it's funny because sometimes the very things you say you want, when they come to you, you have complexes about, oh my God, like how do I engage with this? You've wanted it all your life and it finally dropped in your lap and you're like, oh, this is wonderful. But one in, you're like, this is difficult to adjust to, because sometimes we get so used to the struggle, we get so used to, being treated in a way that's not ideal, that does not honor our value, that when we get something different from that, it's like it's so foreign that we don't know how to really open up and receive it. And so I would encourage you, coming up to the end of this video, to do your list, what it is that you hold as non-negotiables in a partner. Do you want a partner who was previously married? Can that work for you? Do you want a partner who already has kids? Is that a non-negotiable for you? Do you want a partner who is of a different faith than you are? Can that work for you? Do you want a partner who earns 5 figures when you are earning 6 or 7? Can that work for you? What about age differences? Sometimes we get kind of limited and strict in, what it is that we prefer. You have your reasons for what you prefer. I have mine. But you need to know what those are. Are they non-negotiable? And if so, operate in that way. But to close off, I want to encourage us to do a list. What do you want? What's important to you? How do you want to feel in a relationship? What are the reasons why these things are non-negotiable? Because sometimes you fall into a situation where it's so sweet and so wonderful that the non-negotiables start to get a little bit blurry, like, can I flex on this a little bit? And sometimes it's your tribe, your herd who will say to you, I know you. I know that long term this is not going to work. And if you trust those people, then chances are they're telling you something that you have told them, that this is critical to me and I'm not willing to flex on it. Be intentional. Don't be afraid. Be honest with yourself about what you want. Be honest with whomever is in your space about what it is that you're looking for. It's also so critical, it kind of goes without saying, but I'm going to say it, that when it is that you get into that relationship space, have the conversations about what does this commitment mean to you. For some people, they can love you and love her and her also. Or they can love you and love him and the other him as well. When you over here assuming that just like for you, love for them means that it's exclusive, guys, we can't assume that. Have the conversations. Do you want to know if the person has a criminal record? Don't assume. Ask them. Do you want to know if the person ever been married before or are still married? Don't assume because they're always in your phone, always at your gate. Ask the questions. Do you want to know if this person is of a particular sexual orientation also? Don't assume. Ask the questions. Do you want to know if this person has ever killed anyone? Has ever been abusive in a past relationship? Do not assume. Ask the questions and be open to them also seeking information from you. You are not like the FBI who's just the arbiter of all things truthful. You need to allow also for the person to explore what you bring, who you are, and how things are likely to be in this relationship. And some of the limiting beliefs that we have, sometimes we don't even really realize that they're limiting. A very good friend of mine said to me once that she expects that all men will at some point cheat. And it broke my heart because I know that's not true, regardless of the narratives in, in our media and in our music, etc. Some men, many men out there, are fully looking for monogamous relationships, and they commit themselves to being faithful to one partner at a time. Those men exist. And so for many of us, unless it is that we remind ourselves in a conscious way that it's possible to have the very thing we're seeking, we may end up settling for less. Another limiting belief that we sometimes have about love is the fact that half a man is better than no man at all. Yup. There are some women who believe that, first of all, half a man from the standpoint that he's with somebody else is better than no man at all. Depending on your value system, that might work. Depending on what you're looking for, that might work for you. But you need to be clear on what it is that you are looking for. What is the ultimate that will, make you want to give your best and make you want to commit fully. Let's start there. So for some women, it could be that he's otherwise engaged. That's why he's a half a man. Or for some women, it's because he's not everything that you want him to be, or even half of what you want him to be, but he's a man. And so we accept him into our space. And again, we just have to be clear that every decision that we make has consequences. We may not see them now, and it may feel like all fun and games, but all decisions have consequences. And so ultimately, we have to be clear. And when it is that your sister tells you what she's looking for, let's be sensitive, right? They're important to her. They don't have to be important to you. Be sensitive to what it is that's important to her or to him, in the case of the guys. And allow them to build out their own ideal vision of love. But I tell you, if it is that we do not feel worthy to receive love on such an excellent level, that's going to be a blockage as well. And I guarantee you that our insecurities will somehow play out in a relationship. And so whether you're single or you're just starting a little relationship vibe with somebody, it does us good at this stage in the game to start to identify our insecurities and start to work them away. And start to step fully into loving yourself fully. Normally when I give this talk in presentations, I start there, right? In terms of if you don't love self fully, it's very difficult, if not impossible, for you to fully accept the love of another person. You have to see yourself as worthy. I've had the experience of having a man look at me in a way that I couldn't shrink away. Just the look, it was just so full on. I could not be unseen after he saw me. He looks at me directly. Insecurity starts to come to the fore because you start to wonder, what is he seeing? I don't know if I want him looking at me so closely. All these things can mess up beautiful experiences. So we have to be willing to do the work, do the work, do the work. I'm going to be having a live class in August where we'll be talking about these topics and more. Look out for the dates leading up to that, and also look out for the ebook that's coming out, as well as my online webinars to discuss these issues in a more fulsome and targeted way. I'm so happy that you chose to listen to this video and to engage with me on this journey. Please click the share and subscribe button, tell a friend, and as usual, continue to do well and continue to be